Hey, this is Tim Talks, and today it's all about Sony versus Sigma. It's gonna be very exciting. Very, very, very exciting. So, intro! So I recently got myself this little thing here, which is the Sony 16-35 f4. Now this is, if not mentioning the G-Master, one of the flagships of the Sony lenses. And I must admit, it's a really good thing, and I'm gonna make a video about specifically this one soon, but there's a lot of video out there, so I'm gonna do another one, which is I'm gonna pair this one to my Sigma 20mm art lens, because I'm gonna see which one is best. This is a bit of an unfair fight because the Sigma is a 1.4 and this is an F4, but I am gonna step up the Sigma to F4, and also I'm gonna find the 20mm on this one and compare them there. I guess without any further ado, let's just jump into what it's gonna look like. So, see you.
And I am back at the computer again, and you can see my logo, and you can actually see me just editing what you just saw. I've just been editing that. So what we're gonna start with is that I am gonna show you the S-Log ungraded photo from the camera. So let's go into the first one. This is the Sigma. Okay, that was a bad place for me to stop. Right there instead. This is quite bright. Actually, you can see my face is a little overexposed, but that's because I have a light source that I'm still trying to figure out. And it looked okay on the false color, but apparently it's a little overdue. You can see it's actually quite sharp. It is 4K, and it's probably not the best place that I stopped. This is more like it. It's actually quite sharp. You can see all the details in my face, and you can see all the hair and my gray hair. And also the background is kind of thrown out. It's still F4. That's quite good. Let's go over to the Sony and see that. It is also very crisp. You can see the hair, you can see what is going on in my face, you can see all the hairs here. Let's go see how it looks side by side. The left one is the Sigma and the right one is the Sony, but that's going to show up in a minute as well. Now the big difference here is actually the background or the shadows. The shadows on the Sony is more prominent than on the Sigma. Also, there is a slight diffuse on the Sigma. It's a little softer than the Sony. The Sony is very sharp, but also quite contrasty. There's actually not a whole lot of difference here, and I quite like both results. So let's just go back into Final Cut here, and I am gonna go up to this one, which is where I color graded the, which is where I'm gonna start with the Sigma and go into my adjustment layer. And I'm just, first of all, just gonna turn on the vector scopes, and I'm gonna go into color correction. And as you can see, I'm down by 0 and I'm up here. Now I'm not all the way up to 100 because as you can see in the middle here, my face gets quite overexposed already. So that's why it's only a little above 75. Now I didn't have to push it up a lot, and I didn't have to push down the shadows a whole lot to actually get down to 0. And let me go over to the Sony. The shadows is not pushed down a lot, also because the picture is more contrasty, but the highs, I still had to push up the highs quite a bit more to get like a similar thing to over here. Let me just, that was a bad pose, let me find something else. Like this, and this, and this. Also, what I did is on both of them that I went into color finale and I made a slight curve thing. The color wheel, I saturated it a little more. I didn't really touch the wheels here. And then I used the Captain America Civil War lot that I have, which is my favorite one because it is the orange teal one. But because Final Cut Pro does not show 4K in its real mode whenever it's playing, it shows in a proxy. That's actually quite nice because that means you can edit a whole lot faster in here. I'm gonna go out and I am gonna take over this one here. This is the Final Cut one, and let's just turn this down and let's just see. that is together. This is the Sigma one. As you can see, it's very sharp. The details really stand out when you start messing around with the color correction. My eyes are quite good. They're quite clear, even, and it is a little overexposed here, but it's not too bad. And again, it has kind of a diffuse background, so it looks kind of awesome while the foreground stands out really much. Let's go over to the Sony. Let's just get somewhere where... that's not the best one, but we can make it work. The Sony here is really good as well. You can see a lot of detail in the skin, and the background is a little darker, and it doesn't really have that diffuse thing. It's a little harder. Throw them up side by side, and let's go in where we can see. Oh no, that was not that good. Right here, you can see the background here is a little more blue. And remember, I didn't touch any color wheels, but because the Sony has more contrast, it should be a little more blue. You can really see that the detail is standing out on both of them. I think that the Sigma is a little nicer to look at than the Sony, but that doesn't mean that the Sony isn't good. I am gonna go into a last thing. I did a color grading in DaVinci Resolve, and I'm gonna use that. Now, this is the classic teal orange one, which I've been using a lot. So I'm gonna go over to the Sigma. As you can see, very, very detailed. I had to turn the orange down a little because it got really strong on the Sigma. But you can see again, kind of diffuse look. Let's go into the Sony. This is the Sony one. Let's hear that. Oh, see that. We didn't want to hear it. The color difference between these two, let's run up the side by side, might be me not really matching it because I didn't have them side by side. It might also be the same as in Final Cut, where because the Sony footage is more contrasted, it turns up a little more dark blue than the Sigma. Now the skin tones are actually quite the same. I actually think I got a little more to work with on the Sony, if I have to be honest. I actually had to pull back the orange on the Sigma, or else I would just look like someone who had way too much self-tanner on. So that is a pretty clean run through between the Sigma or the Sony. I myself like the Sigma better, but that does not mean that the Sigma is the best one. I'm going to turn this off. It simply just means that I like the Sigma more. But the Sigma and the Sony is just as sharp, just as good at picking up everything, and you can really do stuff with it in the color grading. I'm not going to jump back to the couch this time. I'm actually going to just end it right here. So if you like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. I'm gonna show you it is right there, or it is right underneath one of the movies. Or, well, have a very nice week. See you guys.